Everyone knows DK is cool as fuck, but who knows what he's thinking? Who knows why he crushes hearts? And why do we think about him as fondly as we do? I believe it was K. Rool who said, "Experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is merely intellectual play." DK exhibits experience by crushing bananas all day, but he exhibits theory by saying, "Okay." When DK leaves his place of safety to stomp a Kranky, he knows that he may die, and yet, for a monkey man who can purchase lives with balloons, a life becomes a mere store of value, a tax that can be paid for, much as a rich man feels any law with a fine is a price. We think of DK as a hero, but he is simply a 1%er of a more privileged variety, the life kind, perchance. When we close our eyes at night, when we want to feel all safe and secure, we think of DK the idea versus thinking of DK the man, meaning the zeitgeist of DK has split his image of who he is versus who he is seen as. For starters, let's take a look at his name, Donkey Kong. From what I can tell, in this universe, that is not what donkeys actually look like. I can only infer this means that he instills so much fear into his enemies that none of them dare correct him. It's that duality that captured gamers' hearts, where this lovable beast might have looked like this, he made your hands look like this.
Oh my goodness!
The original Donkey Kong game, besides being the first game in existence, was also the original survival horror game. This game really makes you feel like Donkey Kong's victim. So, in this game, all I have to do is jump to the top of the stage. How hard can that be? Okay, so your character moves at a snail's pace. And DK not only throws barrels, the barrels also have a mind of their own and go whichever way they want. The whole building and gets you also have fire too. Level like 3 times to unlock the other levels. This is where the OG DK first appeared, in the Donkey Kong arcade game, Donkey Kong, as an escaped pet of Jumpman, who tries to establish equal animal rights through guerrilla warfare before being thwomped by Jumpman. Decades of torturing Mario and the players alike had a negative toll on DK's mental well-being. No amount of women he kidnapped could fill his cranky conscience. He'd become so edgy, not only did Nintendo have to move the spotlight onto his next of kin once, but once more after that, meaning the DK we know best is actually his family name, as he is DK the Third, the son of Junior and apparently Trisha Paytas of all people. Shalom. With a new Kong meant a new design. Instead of being an indecent menace, Rare and Nintendo decided to cover up his schlong. We all know DK as his iconic character with his iconic look. Brown fur, his bedhead hairdo, monkey paws. While this was relatable to monkeys worldwide, in the 90s, primates were not into gaming as much as us Neanderthals. So, what did Nintendo do? They gave him a tie, the working man's garment of choice. This told any viewer with eyes that DK was not just one person, but 100, even multiple hundreds, and that we all had a little DK in us. You see, DK to the layman is seen as this stupid, strong brute. But that is just a misconception, as the Rare team had to recreate a cool new design in the late 90s. In that time period, being radical and edgy was the hot look for the moment, not realizing that being filled with whimsy and joy is timeless. There are remnants of the wonder-filled ape that try to pop out every here and now, but he is locked behind the skin and muscle of this rare look. Compared to other villains I've discussed on this channel, I'd say Kranky Kong easily outranks them in terms of chaos and destruction. His sins range from terrorism, property damage, kidnapping, as well as snow bunny kidnapping. But by far, his greatest crime is breaking the ultimate ape law, ape-on-ape violence. We shouldn't forget that Jumpman only had to deal with Kranky on weekends, while DK most likely saw this abuse every day. What we need to remember is that DK grew up in an abusive household, and this old man was and still is currently putting hands on him. So no matter the age, he never stopped his violent tendencies. We can clearly see this at the start of Donkey Kong Country 1, where Kranky bombs him, that this is a sign that hey, that old DK is dead now. We also don't see DK Jr. ever in these titles, which can be inferred as that Kranky cranked his head off. We can infer that DK's abilities like the ground pound, the conga slamma, his helicopter hand slap, and the big barrel toss were all techniques that were once used to abuse him. But instead of wallowing in his pain, DK found a more positive source to release his pain onto the world. In DK's journey from arcade to the Super NES, we saw him ditch his frat city boy lifestyle to be one with nature once again. First thing you and DK will notice is the natural jazz music throughout the country. Whoever the sicko was that created all these Mungo jams needs to be arrested immediately for killing it on all these tracks. Just listen to how good even the sound design is. That music is just music to my ears. Each one of these games has an iconic soundtrack that you can't help but close your eyes to and open up your ears to. From Country 1's Simian Sieg being in a Simian league of its own, Country 2's Mining Melancholy sounds like a bunch of Kremlins beating up a womp with a steel pipe, and Country 3's soundtrack making that game worthwhile. Rare did its best to capture that jungle look. The art style emits that explorer photographer vibe. Rare did what no other developer had done before and stepped outside. They painstakingly took full 360-degree photos of DK living his life to more accurately let the players live vicariously through him in the game. However, due to DK's coolness, our brains could not fully register him and would only allow us to process him in 16-bit form. And while he looks cool, DK here has never played better. The levels in this game make you go, ooh, oh my god, while the difficulty makes you go, oh my god. The developers clearly created this difficulty to show the players that from birth, nothing has come easy for DK. The visuals and gameplay create this duality of beauty and chaos. The pixelated PNGs grab our eyes and make it so easy for us to get lost in them. The aesthetics that have so much variety and do it so well by sticking to their main theme, that these are monkeys living in a monkey's world. The graphics, through their beauty, force you to not look away because this place will kill you. The enemies will kill you. The water will kill you. The seizure-inducing companion will kill you. The thorns will kill you. The saw ripping the tree in half will also kill you. It's kill or be killed in this country. I know when we look at DK, we all ask ourselves the same question. What are his turn-ons? Thankfully, Rare answered this in an official Nintendo Power issue. This isn't a joke, by the way. They actually wrote and printed these out. Here we find out that relaxing on the beach while drinking a banana milkshake are what gets DK really going. Wait a minute. Then this means DK was getting his gooning on when King K. Rool's goons captured him. What you won't see as his turn-ons, however, is Candy Kong. DK might be a simian, but my man ain't no simpian. In that same issue, we find out that throughout Donkey Kong Country 2, DK is actually the one who's been laying out the bananas for Diddy to follow along to, even though he was captured, basically implying that in the span of him being caught, he escaped, laid bananas all throughout Kremlin Island, and went back to his imprisonment just to troll Kroll and make him think he actually did something to him. Rare's DK is meant to be seen more of a trickster character, rather than just being a dick. That's why even if he's playing tricks on Diddy, It's meant to be taken more lightheartedly. However, to his enemies, he's a cold-blooded bastard. DK can be seen brandishing a shotgun in DK64. The 64 stands for the amount of holes left in your body after DK is done with you. But Nintendo finally had to step in. They said, and I quote, "DK can crush, kill, and punch a Kremlin from the tip top of an island and feed him to the sharks, but packing heat is way too far." After making 2 amazing Donkey Kong games, Rare had to face the reality that all good things must come to an end and hand over the release of DK back to Nintendo. Once Rare was bought out by Xbox, they were no longer allowed to make new Donkey Kong games. Xbox would rarely even let them make new games for their own console. You think they'd allow them to make Nintendo games? Thus, separating them from the skill and talent of DK. Without the magic that DK was granting them, Xbox was able to suck all life, soul, profits, and creativity from Rare. Life really does imitate art, because just as DK the second was abused to death by Kranky, Microsoft strangled the life of this once great company. Even after their split up, DK was still wearing what Rare had given him for many years. In that limbo timeframe where DK was hopping from one developer to developer, game genre to genre, he was still using his Rare aesthetic. That's who we wanted DK to be, who we projected ourselves onto, like a projector on a blank wall. But who is DK really? Just like in the niche anime, One Piece, where the world needed to wait 800 years for their monkey man to liberate them from their suffering, we had to endure in this lull of new games to feed our unending appetite. The audience finally had the time to stop viewing him as DK the idea to DK the man. DK the idea is this hunk of a monk of a brute, where he looks angry most of the time and solves his issues with realistic violence. While DK the man that Nintendo sought out to create was more of this lovable goof who gets into trouble sometimes. And when he hits you, you should hear more of a cartoonish thwomp noise. Donkey Kong Country Returns was a closer return to form with its brightly saturated world, no longer having to play as DK as a realistic gorilla stuck on a realistic cartoon island, but more of a gorilla power fantasy, where the world twists its shape around and enters this eye-catching silhouette shapes, where Diddy can roll DK around and use him like some kind of monkey ball to speed through the levels. The cartoon logic permeates this sense of fun. For years, DK has had to play second fiddle to Mario. Even though his name was on the arcade, he was actually the villain. Then once Nintendo brought their games to a home console, they made Mario the star and not DK. Once again, when DK had slowly gained more momentum and popularity, Mario carried this whole damn industry on his back and flipped it on its head. DK was no longer the first pick, but just one of the boys on the roster. Until these past couple years, where we've entered the year of DK. First, the absolute highlight of Mario Odyssey was New Donk City, the birthplace of gaming and Donkey Kong himself. This city is a jungle gym of platforming creativity. Every corner was packed with fun obstacles to solve. These devs were thinking inside the box, since the box is the city. Next was him co-starring in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, not as a sidekick, but as Mario's equal. DK here is such a force for good that we were all shocked when Seth Rogen tried to put on the suit. Allowing him to play this magnum opus of a role saved his life and, more importantly, his career. Before, Seth was just seen as a deadbeat pothead, but after DK filled his life with some substance, he ditched the drugs and, more importantly, ditched James Franco. Just as DK recently ditched Diddy, Seth Rogen ditched his Diddy and is now an obnoxious Hollywood elite. It's not much of an improvement, but DK can only do so much with so little. And now we've entered DK peak era with Bananza. And the main idea for this game was, hey, remember that dopamine rush you got when you cleared a level with Diddy and he started blasting his boombox? What if we glued the boombox to DK and he was always blasting jams? Then, what if we made that boombox an actual character? And bam! Bananza was born. This is clearly Nintendo's answer to The Last of Us. With this finalized design, Nintendo has reclaimed what their vision of DK was. In the first moments of the game, we're told everything we need to know. Just like how Donkey Kong Country reintroduced DK in a bombastic way, this new reintroduction of DK shows he can crush you with a single swing, but then he can just as easily switch up to be this cute, lovable ape, finally answering our question of who DK the man is. A fun, lovable guy who isn't afraid to raise a kid. Time and time again, from Japan to England to America and back to Japan, DK has been a worldwide blessing.